I think the big question is not whether MBS wants to make peace with Israel. I think he's open to it. I think the question is the relationship between MBS and Joe Biden, President Biden, is so broken. It's so he feels so disrespected by Biden, who has called him a murderer, called him a pariah. I think that the Saudis desperately want to be the closest Arab ally to the United States, and Biden is keeping them at very arm's length, and I think that's a huge mistake. We're continuing a conversation about my meetings with MBS, Mohammed Bin Salman, the most controversial, consequential leader in the region, and whether Bibi Netanyahu can make peace with him. And I'm having that conversation with my friend and colleague, Tal Heinrich. All right, Tal, what else you got?
So Joel, you mentioned in your book and in your articles on All Israel News that Benjamin Netanyahu, Israeli Prime Minister, has met with Mohammed Bin Salman, yet there's no one single picture documenting these meetings between them two.
I had good sources.
You have good sources.
But we don't have a picture.
Maybe in the future we'll see pictures of both of them, but you have pictures, astonishing ones, of sitting this space close to Mohammed Bin Salman, and not only that you met with him, also your wife and one of your sons,
who served in the Israeli army. It is kind of crazy,
which is remarkable. So, is that guy capable of making peace with Israel, in your view?
Look, the conversations that I had with him, with Mohammed Bin Salman, about peace with Israel were off the record in both conversations, both the first in 2018 and then 2019. So there's things I can't say, but I can say I didn't walk away with a person who thought that he was hostile to that. I mean, again, I'm an Israeli, my wife's an Israeli, my son served in the Israeli army. Like it was kind of amazing to be there as not a billionaire and not a foreign minister, not a prime minister, or whatever. But I also say, look at the decisions MBS has made since I met with him. He's allowing overflight rights. We talked about this with Jason Greenblatt last week. Look at the overflight rights where Israeli planes and other planes are flying back and forth to the Gulf over Saudi Arabia. And MBS has made some public statements that he believes that Israel has a right to exist in this region. That's really not a statement that's ever been made by a Saudi leader ever. So I think what you can see on the record is consistent with my sense of him. I think the big question is not whether MBS wants to make peace with Israel. I think he's open to it. I think the question is the relationship between MBS and Joe Biden, President Biden, is so broken. It's so he feels so disrespected by Biden, who has called him a murderer, called him a pariah. I think that the Saudis desperately want to be the closest Arab ally to the United States, and Biden is keeping them at very arm's length, and I think that's a huge mistake.
What can change what should change in order to make it happen?
Biden needs to realize that
give them something.
Not every ally has everything going on in their country the way you wish it would. Biden is a close ally with Erdogan, the president of Turkey, and the man has put 200,000 people into prison. Like, he's thrown more journalists into prison in Turkey than any country in the world. Yet Biden isn't calling Recep Erdogan a pariah or a murderer or anything else.
But we know that Benjamin Netanyahu is committed to this idea. He vowed to bring peace with Saudi Arabia if reelected. Right. He vowed to stop Iran, and the two things are obviously sort of connected. The principle of the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
That's right. And I would say that Bibi Netanyahu now becomes an asset to MBS. Why? Because Netanyahu has a great relationship with everybody in Washington. I mean, not great in the sense of a strategic alliance. Netanyahu actually could be an advocate to say to Biden, listen, I get that you don't love every decision that the Saudis have made, but look at the trajectory. If you look at Saudi Arabia 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 50 years ago, they were some of the most anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, anti-Christian people on the planet. Look where MBS is taking the country.
He's definitely a visionary.
And also, I think Bibi should tell President Biden, if you don't embrace, not just for you personally, but if America doesn't embrace Saudi Arabia as a key ally, you're just driving the Saudis into the hands of the Chinese and the Russians. And how does that help American strategic interests? And one other thing, I think Biden could win the Nobel Peace Prize. I'm not trying to help him politically. I'm a nonpartisan on this, but he could win the Nobel Peace Prize if he follows Netanyahu's lead and says, how can we strengthen the U.S.-Saudi alliance and how can we forge this
Meanwhile,
peace?
the alliance that we see strengthening is the Saudi one with Xi Jinping of China,
Right.
the Saudi one
It's a problem.
with President
It's
Putin.
because Biden has pushed the Saudis away.
What should evangelicals know about MBS, about Saudi Arabia in general? There's not one single church in the kingdom.
That's right. Being in UAE and just being there recently, there are 750 fully operational free churches operating in the United Arab Emirates. There are many churches in Bahrain where I just was as well. Not a single church open in Saudi Arabia. I have pressed, my colleagues and I pressed MBS on both visits. When can we do this? You're making so many reforms. We're encouraged by the direction of the reforms. They need to be more, they need to be faster, but please open some churches. He hasn't committed yet, but I'm committed to pressing him. And I think we're going to see in our lifetime, my lifetime, and I think it's not that long, in the next, I don't know when. I don't want to put a date on it because I want it to be tomorrow, that there will be churches in Saudi Arabia. That's what I'm praying for and I'm pressing for. And I think also Christians need to realize you can now visit Saudi Arabia. There are biblical heritage there. Saudi Arabia is mentioned. The Queen of Sheba, who came and made peace with King Solomon in this city, she was an Arabian monarch. And we brought that up on the second trip with MBS. We sat with him, and one of the women, a wife of a pastor, told him the story of the Queen of Sheba coming to Jerusalem as an Arabian monarch, making peace with King Solomon. And it was fascinating. The next day, MBS sent to my wife and me a framed engraving of an image of the Queen of Sheba meeting with King Solomon. I was shocked. It's hanging in my wall, on our wall in our Jerusalem apartment.
On that hopeful note,
it is a hopeful note, and we need to be praying. We prayed for the peace of Jerusalem. We've seen Egypt make peace, Jordan make peace, Bahrain make peace, the United Arab Emirates make peace, Sudan make peace, Morocco make peace, Kosovo make peace. Let's pray and trust God to do it.
Mohammed Bin Salman, the Saudi crown prince whom you met with, does he have a plan of how to deal with the Iranian threat? He clearly felt somewhat betrayed by the Obama-Biden administration when they negotiated 2015 JCPOA, the nuclear deal. So what does he have in mind?
Well, what's interesting is we pressed him on his view of Iran. These are two Muslim countries, so what's the problem? And he said, Mohammed bin Salman, on the record with us, the first meeting said he considers the Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, as the new Hitler. Whoa, I thought I was talking to Netanyahu. I mean, this is the exact same view. And it's a view that's held throughout the Arab world. But a plan, I think his plan is he needs missile defenses. How is he going to get them if the Biden administration pulled the Patriot missile battery out as one of the first steps of coming into power? He's got to get this relationship with the United States re-engaged, and he's trying, and Biden is not biting, as it were. So the other route is to engage Israel, and maybe together, Israel, the United States, Saudi, we can not only help build an alliance against Iran to neutralize Iran, but also a multi-tiered missile defense system to cover all the Gulf states, including us. Imagine Saudi money and Gulf money with Israeli technology and American blessing. We could have an extraordinary defense system.
And that is exactly what it's trying to do, diversify the Saudi economy. Let's listen to what he had to say in a recent investment conference.
Yeah, fascinating, right?
أنا أعتقد أن أوروبا الجديدة هي الشرق الأوسط. المملكة العربية السعودية في ال5 سنوات القادمة سوف تكون مختلفة تماما. البحرين سوف تكون مختلفة تماما. الكويت حتى قطر على خلافنا معهم لديهم اقتصاد قوي سوف تكون مختلفة تماما بعد 5 سنوات. الإمارات، عمان، لبنان، الأردن، مصر، العراق والفرص التي لديها. إذا نجحنا في ال5 سنوات القادمة سوف تلتحق فينا دول أكثر وسوف تكون النهضة القادمة في العالم في 30 سنة القادمة في الشرق الأوسط إن شاء الله. هذه حرب السعوديين، هذه حربي اللي أخوضها شخصيا، ولا أريد أن أفارق الحياة إلا وأرى الشرق الأوسط في مقدمة مصاف العالم، وأعتقد أن هذا الهدف سوف يتحقق 100%.
الله يعطيك طول العمر يا سيدي.
Definitely a visionary.
Yeah.
The Crown Prince.
There's never been a Saudi leader like this. He's fundamentally transforming the Saudi economy and society.